بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وسلم على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا وسيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما اللهم آمين. So we were in the topic of طرق أهل البدع والأهواء في تضليل الأمة. We were speaking about the methods that the people of innovation, the people of desires use when it comes to causing misguidance and confusion. And number two, we mentioned that the second was al-akhdhu bi-al-mutashabih, to use al-mutashabih or to use as an evidence the mutashabihat, those evidences and nusus that have more than one possible meaning, and to reject the muhkam. We then mentioned some of the aqwal of the ulama such as Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah and Ibn al-Qayyim that clearly tell us and indicate that it is impermissible for a person, especially a person of knowledge, a person, a da'iyah, to use this methodology of ambiguity and mujmalat, and that this is one of the methods of the people of innovation. We mentioned as an example the lafdhiyah and the people known as al-lafdhiyah. For those of you who don't know, the lafdhiyah are a sect from the Jahmiyyah. Now you know that the Jahmiyyah believe that the Quran is created, and Imam Ahmad and the Salaf refuted this and clarified that this is batil and this is kalam fadi. طيب. Then what happened afterwards was that a group of people decided to cause confusion by saying that lafzi bil Quran makhluq, my utterance and pronunciation of the Quran is created, and their hadaf and objective was to cause confusion. Now this is a kalam mujmal, this is an ambiguous statement, and Imam Ahmad refuted this and said that whoever says lafzi bil Quran makhluq fahuwa jahmi is a jahmi. طيب. So we learn from this that the Salaf, and this is just one example from many examples, they would not tolerate a person speaking about issues of aqeedah and ideology in a mujmal, ambiguous way. Issues of aqeedah are clear-cut. The Quran is clear-cut, صح? The Sunnah is clear-cut. The Prophet ﷺ said, تَرَكْتُكُمْ عَلَى الْبَيْضَاءِ لَيْلِهَا كَنَهَارِهَا لَا يَزِيغُ عَنْهَا إِلَّا هَالِكٌ. I have left you on a distinct, clear path. Its night, it's distinguishable from its day. Layliha kanahariya. It's distinct. The haqq is distinguishable from the batil, just like you can tell the difference between night and day. So for someone da'i to come and mention some mujmalat or teach aqeedah or tawheed in a general capacity without delving into details, هذا تلبيس. Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah, he named this type of action, and Ibn al-Qayyim as ghish, cheating, tadlis, and talbis, deception. So this is something we need to know. هذا شيء لا يحتمل إلا الحق. This is something that is the truth, and it doesn't. There is no shak and there is no doubt in this particular mas'ala. And then I mentioned a couple of examples, the qawl of Abu Ishaq al-Huwaini, and also I mentioned the statement of some of the mumayyi'ah when they say that the Salafiyun are ghulat, the Salafis or Salafiyya, there is shidda and Salafiyya, and there is extremism and harshness in Salafiyya. Al-Imam Ahmad rahimahullah ta'ala, to continue, he says, ينبغي للمتكلم في الفقه أن يجتنب هذين الأصلين المجمل والقياس. He says that the person who's speaking in fiqh or about matters of fiqh, this person should stay away from two things. Mujmal, things that are ambiguous statements, general statements, and qiyas or false qiyas, which is false comparison or false analogy. And he also said, أكثر ما يخطئ الناس من جهة التأويل والقياس, that most people make errors and mistakes from the angle of ta'wil, false interpretation, because of a kalam, a statement that was mujmal. And that's how bid'ah also spreads. That's how innovation spreads. Jamil. Now, we move on to the fourth one, And this basically fourth one is specific to the Ikhwan al-Muslimin, which is from the turuq and the methods that some of the people of ahwa use, some of the people of desires use, is التكتم والخفاء والتلون. طيب, التكتم, to hide their aqidah. So you'll find, for example, a person giving da'wah a year, 2 years, 3 years, and this person doesn't want to talk about matters of aqidah or tawheed. That in and of itself is a red flag. So you can't say, oh, this person hasn't said anything about these matters, so khalas, we can't label them or say anything about them. La. The fact that this person hasn't even spoken about aqidah and tawheed, when that is the wadhifatul anbiya, that is the function of the prophets and messengers, that is the da'wah of the prophets and messengers, is a red flag. طيب, so at-takattum, al-khafa, secrecy. Okay, you ask them about matters of aqidah, matters of tawheed, and they won't talk about it, they won't give a clear-cut response. They won't give a clear-cut response. For example, I'll give you one simple example. One of them was asked about النزول, hadith al-nuzul. You all know hadith al-nuzul, صح? ينزل ربنا إلى سماء الدنيا حين يبقى ثلث الليل الآخر. The Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم. طيب, هذا hadith al-nuzul. So he was asked about al-nuzul. What is nuzul? How do we understand this hadith? This is a great opportunity now to establish the madhab of the Salaf. صح؟ في النزول, في الصفات, في الأسماء والصفات. إثبات ما أثبته الله لنفسه. تنزيه الله تعالى عن مشابهة المخلوقين. قطع الطمع عن إدراك كيفية اتصاف. the madhab of the Salaf. هذا هو الفرصة. What does this person do? He says, listen, don't focus on the beginning of the hadith. Focus on the end of the hadith. Focus on the statement of the Prophet ﷺ, the statement, من يسألني فأعطيه, من يستجيب لي فأجيبه, من يستغفر لي فأغفر الله. Where Allah says, who will ask me and I'll give to them, who will seek forgiveness and I'll forgive them. Focus on that. Don't focus on the nuzul. He hasn't said anything, right? He hasn't mentioned the madhab of the Asha'ira or the Jahmiyyah. He hasn't mentioned the madhab of Ahlul-Sunnah wal Jama'ah. That is a red flag. فهمتم? That is a red flag, إخوان في الله. Because that is an opportunity for that person to establish ماذا؟ إيش؟ The Aqeedah of Ahlul-Sunnah wal Jama'ah. One of them is asked about al-Mawlid. Mawlid al-Nabawi. And he says, اختلف العلماء في هذه المسألة على قولين. The scholars have differed in this issue with two different opinions. He mentions the qawl of Ahlul Sunnah, then he mentions the qawl of the people who say that Mawlid al-Nabawi is allowed. طيب? So he mentions both opinions. Maybe he does tarjih, maybe he doesn't. Maybe he prefers one opinion over the other, maybe he doesn't. That is not the way. This is a mas'ala aqdiyah. There's only one qawl. هناك قول واحد. ليس كل خلاف معتبر إلا خلاف له حظ من النظر. Not every khilaf is معتبر. Not every khilaf, the khilaf between Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah and the Quran, is it معتبر? Of course not. You're not going to say في اختلف العلماء في مسألة القرآن هل هو مخلوق أم لا إلى قولين. لا, ما تقول هذا. You mention the qawl of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, and then you say there is the qawl of the Jahmiyyah وهذا قول باطل وسبب بطلانه كذا وكذا. It's a qawl that's false, and the reason it's false is because of X, Y, and Z. Okay? So, التكتم والخفاء والتلون, also تلون, changing colors. Okay? Changing their da'wah and changing basically their viewpoints on matters of aqidah based on external factors, based on their surroundings and external factors. So I'm going to read to you the statement of Shaykh Salih al-Shaykh. The statement of Shaykh Salih al-Shaykh when it comes to there is. The statement of Shaykh Salih al-Shaykh rahimahullah ta'ala with regards to al-Ikhwan and the alamat and the signs to look out for when it comes to the Ikhwan. So the Shaykh Salih al-Shaykh, he says, I'm just going to أختصر الكلام, I'm going to just summarize this. He says that al-Ikhwan hum batiniyatun بنوع من أنواعها. They are a group, they are like batiniyah. So the Batiniya are people who believe that the nusus, the Quran and the Sunnah, has internal meanings that only they know. He says, وأما جماعة الإخوان المسلمين فإن من أبرز مظاهر الدعوة عندهم. As for the جماعة إخوان المسلمين, the most يعني the main characteristics of their da'wah is one, التكتم والخفاء والتلون. He mentions the three things: secrecy, hiding their da'wah and their aqeedah, and changing colors or changing their viewpoints. Okay, والتقرب إلى من يظنون أنه سينفعهم, and they also always try to come close to any person they feel is going to help their cause. وعدم إظهار حقيقة أمرهم, and the fact that they don't clarify their amr and their situation. Then he says, number 2, يغلقون عقول أتباعهم عن سماع القول الذي يخالف منهجهم. They try to lock the minds of their followers so that they don't hear any speech that contradicts the manhaj of the Ikhwanis. So the youth, for example, their atba', their youth, any person they're trying to basically brainwash or cause anyone that they're trying to basically invite their manhaj to, they try to make sure that person doesn't hear the qawl of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, doesn't sit with the ulama, the scholars. They try to create a barrier between that person and the Sunnis or the Salafis or the scholar. And he says, Shaykh Salih says, وَلَهُمْ فِي هَذَا الْإِغْلَاقِ طُرُقٌ شَتَّى مُتَنَوِّعَةٌ. And they use different turuq and different methods to try to distract the youth from hearing the truth. منها, he says, إشغال وقت الشباب جميعه من صبحه إلى ليله حتى لا يسمع قولا آخر. Distracting the youth from the morning until the evening with various activities, so much so that young man, that young sister, isn't able to hear the truth. Doesn't have time for the truth. So there could be, for example, a matan is being taught, a kitab in aqeedah is being taught somewhere. At that particular moment, precise moment, they will do an i'lan, an activity. They will do mada, advertise some sort of activity or some activity that distracts that young person from hearing or listening or reading or even studying that particular matan or that particular book of aqeedah under that particular Salafi scholar. Okay, this is something this is something that they've been using for the last 30-40 years. This is a tactic and a trick that they've been using. The reason is they are afraid that if that young man goes and learns, and every hizb, not just the ikhwan, every partisan group, every hizb will try to cause their followers to be distracted from listening to someone else. While a da'wah salafiyya is not a da'wah that recruits. There's no bay'ah, there's no allegiance. You come to the lesson, you don't come to the lesson. If you go to the lessons of Shaykh Abbad, or you don't go to his lessons because you're busy doing something else, that doesn't take you out of the fold of Salafiyya. You go to a particular group of scholars or you don't, that doesn't take you out of the fold of Salafiyya, out of the fold of the Sunnah. Every group, Ikhwani Fillah, will try to recruit you. Every single hizb will try to get you to follow their way of their manhaj. Okay? The only sect or the only group, the only firqa that's not going to try to recruit you is al-firqatun najiyah. Because the asl of the Muslim is that the Muslim is upon the Sunnah. The asl is the Sunnah, ikhwan. The asl is Salafiyya. Until something comes and takes a person out of Salafiyya, that's different to the asl of Banu Adam. The asl of Banu Adam, the asl of man is al-dhulm. Inna al-insana kana dhaluman jahula. Dhulm and jahl, Banu Adam. But once the person becomes Muslim, yashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, the asl of that Muslim is annahu ala sunnah, is upon the Sunnah, until someone takes him away from the Sunnah. So just by attending a lesson, you can't be removed from the Sunnah. Just by not attending a lesson, that's not going to take you out of the fold of the Sunnah. So what Ikhwan Muslimin do, as Shaykh Salih al-Shaykh is saying, is that they don't have the confidence in their manhaj they don't have the confidence to feel that young man, if that young man goes and studies these mutun, then his eyes are going to be open. The veil will be removed from in front of his eyes, and then he's going to see them for who they truly are. Okay? Then he says also, taratan, that's one method. Taratan also, by putting in the heart of that young man hatred towards the scholars of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, towards even the books of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah. Okay? And also they use, for example, they label the Salafis with different labels. So nowadays, مثلا, they might label Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah bil Wahhabiyya, bil Madakhila, they are Jamiyya, and as the Sururiyun and would call them Nususiyya. These people are just Nususiyya. All they know is Quran and Sunnah. All they know is ayat and ahadith. انظر إلى يعني how the munkar has become ma'ruf and the ma'ruf has become munkar. Their minds have become so twisted that they are now they're basically using the nusus as something blameworthy. They are ascribing the Salafiyun to the nusus, which is exactly what should be the case for every Muslim. Okay? So that's something you should know, ikhwan fillah. And the whole reason for this, the whole reason I'm mentioning all of these, or Shaykh Salih is mentioning all of these alamat for us, is so that tomorrow you recognize them. Tomorrow you know, just by listening to a speaker, if he's upon the haqq or if he's upon the batil. اعرف الحق تعرف رجاله. Know the truth, and then you'll know the people of the truth. الحق لا يوزن بالرجال إخوان. الحق لا يوزن بالرجال ولكن الرجال يوزنون بالحق. The haqq is not measured with men. You don't measure the haqq by what people do, by the statements and the actions of men. But you measure the statements and the actions of men by how much they follow the haqq and the truth. So by being a student of knowledge and learning the tricks and the strategies of the people of batil, tomorrow you can stay away from them. You can even use this to call them to the haqq. Because the whole point of this isn't we don't want these people to be upon misguidance. دعوا أهل السنة والجماعة هم أرحم الناس بالناس. They are the most merciful people to the people. أهل السنة والجماعة دعوة السلفي is دعوة رحمة إخوان. وما أرسلناك إلا رحمة للعالمين. We have to have لابد أن يكون لنا حظ من هذه الآية ونصيب من هذه الآية. We have to have a share in this ayah. So the reason we're mentioning this, إخواني في الله, is firstly, أولا, أن يكون في قلبك بغض للبدعة. That you should have hatred in your heart for innovation and the people of innovation. But that hatred shouldn't stop you from giving da'wah to them, being kind to them, giving da'wah to them. But when it comes to refuting them, we still refute them. There is no munafata بينهما إخوان. The mumayyi'un, they can't لا يستطيعون أن يجمعوا بين النصوص. They can't reconcile between the evidences. They can't reconcile between the evidences that tell us that we should refute the people of innovation, we should refute the opposers, and the evidences that tell us that we should give advice to people, that we should be lenient and gentle and advise others. ما يستطيعون أن يجمعوا. Neither can the ghulat also, not just the mumayyi'in. Neither the ghulat. You see the difference, ikhwan? You have the ghulat, and you'll inshallah ta'ala hear more about this in the next lecture with Shaykh Sa'id inshallah. But they can't, لا يستطيعون أن يجمعوا. So, the hadith behind all of this, ikhwani fillah, the reason why we're sitting here today is so that we use this knowledge that we have obtained and this knowledge that we have attained to firstly prevent ourselves from falling into bid'ah, awalan, number one. Number two, to use this knowledge as a way, as a method of giving da'wah to these people. We recognize them, we recognize the illness, we prescribe the illness of ikhwaniyah on them, and then we try to remove the disease of sururiyah and ikhwaniyah from their hearts with the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Jamil. Then the Shaykh, he says, and sometimes they say they label the scholars with different labels, okay? And sometimes the scholar of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah may actually make an error, a mistake. The one inviting to the sunnah may make a mistake. He's only human, صح? No one is infallible. But they use that mistake, يضخمونه, and they make the mistake bigger than it is. They use it as an evidence to incite hatred against that scholar. against that scholar or that person who's upon the sunnah. Jamil. Also he says number 4, لا يحترمون السنة ولا يحبون أهلها. Something you should know, that they don't have any ihtiram of the sunnah, they don't like the people of the sunnah, and although they may يتظاهرون, pretend to like the sunnah, but the reality of the situation is they don't like the sunnah. إخواني في الله. Example of this, you come up to them مثلا, one of them might be, for example, doing something that is خلاف السنة, not upon the sunnah. You say to them, أخي, this is not from the sunnah, السنة كذا وكذا, do you have an evidence for this? And they don't like that. لا يستجيبون. You can see from their ردة فعلهم أنهم لا يستجيبون. Ibn al-Qayyim رحمه الله تعالى, he mentions in one of, I think it was الداء والدواء ومفتاح دار السعادة, I cannot remember which one of the two. He mentions that there was he was once in a sitting in a majlis, and in the sitting, there was a Jahmi in the sitting, and the Jahmi, he said to Ibn al-Qayyim, give me one clear-cut evidence that Allah speaks. So Ibn al-Qayyim said لا بأس. Okay. And Ibn al-Qayyim, he mentioned evidences, يعني ذكر النصوص. إذا يعني the hadith of Aisha, إذا تكلم الله بالوحي, أعطاه هذا الحديث. The Prophet ﷺ said, إذا تكلم الله بالوحي. You ask me for an evidence, clear-cut, that's the evidence. وإن أحد من المشركين استجارك فأجره حتى يسمع إيش؟ كلام الله. He said, Ibn al-Qayyim said, his face changed as though his face turned into someone who شمر أنتن رائحة. And someone who basically smelt the stench of a very foul smell. You know, when you smell something disgusting, your face changes. Okay? Or someone who tasted something very bitter, something disgusting, his face changed. يعني مصداقا لقوله تعالى, when Allah عز وجل says وإذا ذكر الله وحده اشمأزت قلوب الذين لا يؤمنون بالآخرة وإذا ذكر الذين من دونه ما الذي سيحصل إذا هم يستبشرون. هذا إخوان المسلمين, هذا أهل البدع. إذا ذكر الله وحده, when Allah alone is mentioned, اشمأزت قلوب الذين لا يؤمنون, their hearts become sick, يعني they become disgusted by the ayat. So يتظاهرون. So you have to know, إخواني في الله, who loves the sunnah and who doesn't. أخي في الله, السني السلفي, you tell him قال الله قال الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم, خلاص انتهى الموضوع, انتهى الموضوع. إخواني سروري, you tell him قال الله قال الرسول, لم ينتهي الموضوع. يقول إيش قال سيد قطب, إيش قال حسن البنا, إيش قال, يعني what makes sense to me? Oh, it doesn't make sense. Maybe the ayah can be understood this way. Maybe يعني سبحان الله. Ibn al-Qayyim, إخواني في الله, he mentions that the people of innovation, Ahlul-Bid'ah, he says, عفوا, it was Ibn Shaykh Taymiyyah, he mentions that the people of innovation, إذا استدلوا بالنصوص إنما يستدلون لردها لا للاعتضاد والاستشهاد بها. Ahlul-Bid'ah, إخواني في الله, when they mention the Quran, the ayat, the only time they use the nusus, إخواني في الله, is to refute the nusus, not to use the nusus as an evidence. Example, in the books of the Asha'ira, إخواني في الله, you will find مثلا في مسألة العلو, that Allah عز وجل is above, يعني is above the 7 heavens, الرحمن على العرش استوى. طيب, في مسألة العلو, they say يأتون بالعقليات, بالأدلة العقلية. They mention all of the عقلي logical evidences. طيب, then they will say إذا قيل لك الرحمن على العرش استوى فقل كذا وكذا. They will say, if someone says to you, tries to refute you with this ayah, then respond like this. The ayah in and of itself is يكفي, دليل. So you have to understand, إخواني في الله, that the علامة الإخوان المسلمين, علامة السروريين, علامة أهل البدع والزيغ والانحراف والضلال is ماذا؟ إيش علامتهم؟ what's the علامة? is لا يحبون السنة ولا يحبون أهلها. They don't like the sunnah and they don't like أهل السنة. جميل. He then says, إيش قال الشيخ, he says مثل مثلا, he says فتجد أنه لما بدأ, he says وقد جربنا, Shaykh Salih al-Shaykh is saying وقد جربنا, we've seen this, he says, from those people who sat with إخوان المسلمين. فتجد أنه لما بدأ يقرأ كتب السنة مثل صحيح البخاري, you'll see that when one of them started to read Sahih Bukhari, he left the Ikhwan al-Muslimin, came to the Salafiyin, and he started learning Sahih Bukhari. Okay, and he started going to the lessons. Then the Ikhwanis, they warned him about going to these lessons. حذروه وقالوا, and they said, هذا لا ينفعك. Reading Sahih Bukhari is not going to benefit you. وش ينفعك صحيح البخاري? What benefit is Sahih Bukhari to you? ماذا تنفعك هذه الأحاديث? These ahadith, they're of no use to you. إخواني في الله, I have heard this with my own ears. Every single person who has had the misfortune of sitting in the same room as an Ikhwani has probably heard this. طيب, انظر, he says, they say, انظر إلى العلماء هؤلاء ما حالهم. Then they go to the next step. Don't go to these scholars that are teaching Sahih Bukhari. Okay, look at these ulama, ما حالهم, look at their situation. هل نفعوا المسلمين؟ يعني انظر إلى خبث هؤلاء. يعني هل نفعوا المسلمين? Did they benefit the Muslims? المسلمون في كذا وكذا. The Muslims are in this calamity and that calamity. They're getting killed everywhere. Okay, and they haven't done anything to help the Muslims. These rulers are doing this, these rulers are doing that. So then دعوتهم تهييجية. دعوة يعني it's a da'wah based on revolution and inciting hatred. It's a da'wah based on hatred, إخواني في الله. Hatred for the hukam, hatred for the mujtama, hatred for society, communities. Okay, that's why the Ikhwanis, they always mention things like everyone is in misguidance. Look at the hal of the ummah. We are all, يعني لا شك إخواني في الله, the hal of the ummah, it concerns all of us. But do they have the answer through thawrat and through revolutions and militant ideologies? Or is the answer in Sahih Bukhari? According to them, the answer is not in Sahih Bukhari. It's not in Sahih Muslim. They have the answer. It's in the books of Sayyid Qutb and Hassan al-Banna. So leave Sahih Bukhari and read معالم في الطريق, or read ماذا؟ ظلال القرآن. هذا هو دين الإخوان. Also, number 5, the Shaykh says, يرومون الوصول إلى السلطة. These people, their hadaf and main objective is governorship and ruling. Okay? That's why Hassan al-Banna, he said regarding one of the hukam of his time that was alive, he said, إما أن يبقى رأس بلا تاج أو تاج بلا رأس. He says either one of two things has to happen. Either the crown, either there will be a head without a crown, or there will be a crown without a head. What does that mean, Ikhwan? Either there will be a head without a crown, meaning he can no longer be the ruler, we have to oust him. Or there will be a crown without a head. يعني kill him, assassination. شفت? So that's it. This is all their objective is ماذا? Is a sulta. That's something شخواني في الله that you know, that you should know. Number 6, he says أن الغاية عندهم من الدعوة هو الوصول إلى الدولة. The غاية, the hadaf of the Ikhwani is always politics. So wherever the Ikhwani is, they get involved in politics, in governorship, and they will do whatever it takes, by hook or by crook. Okay? They have to have some say in the affairs of that community. Okay, whether it's in the lands of the Muslims or in the lands of the non-Muslims. So you'll see them working with disbelievers in every single matter. I'm not saying it's haram to work with a non-Muslim in certain situations, but that's their hadaf. We're talking about the objective. That's the objective. The Salafi, for example, might be teaching the Quran and the Sunnah. Maybe sometimes the darura taqtadi, that he has to basically cooperate with the police, for example, in that neighborhood to talk about مثلا drugs or certain issues, but على ضوء الكتاب, on his terms. لا شك في ذلك, these things occur, and this is not something that's wrong, but that's not the hadaf. That's not the main objective. So the Ikhwan this is the main objective. Number 8 is الغضب الشديد إذا تكلم في رموزهم بحق ورد على ما هم عليه من البدع. That the people of innovation and desires, they are people that are connected to personalities. And this is something, Ikhwani fillah, that we've noticed in the West, and even amongst the ranks of the Salafis, you'll find people connected to personalities more than the haqq. So a young man's whole religion revolves around one particular da'i or two particular du'at. Ikhwani fillah, Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, he says, من كان منكم مستنا فليستن بمن قد مات فإن الحي لا تؤمن عليه الفتنة. فإن الحي لا تؤمن عليه الفتنة. He says, whoever wants to follow someone, if you want to make someone you want someone to be an example for you, then follow those who have died. For the one who is alive is still prone to falling into fitna. أولئك أصحاب محمد. Then he referred to the Sahaba رضوان الله تعالى عليهم. So إخواني في الله, these people are connected to personalities. You remove the personalities and you remove the whole madhab. Whereas the Salafis, Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, are connected to the haqq. لا شك في ذلك, we follow the example of our ulama and scholars. But do we follow the example of our ulama and scholars because they are called Shaykh ibn Baz, Shaykh Salih, because of the tribe that they belong to? Because of their shakhs, because of their personality, or because of the fact that they follow the haqq and the truth? We love them because they follow the haqq and the truth. We follow their example because they follow the example of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay, but we don't blindly follow them, and we don't believe al-isma fihim. We don't believe that they're infallible. Whereas the issue of personalities is that your deen and religion is connected to that particular individual person. So when that person makes an error or a mistake, طيب, you then, and the haqq has been clarified to you, that this person has made an error, ستتعصب له. You will have ta'assub lahu. You will get angry. You will become you will have hatred for anyone who speaks about that particular mistake. Why? Because you're not defending the haqq anymore, the truth anymore. Now you're defending that particular personality, which is not from the manhaj of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah. So the people of innovation, you'll see that they become extremely angry. The people of desires, they become extremely angry when certain groups are named and shamed and refuted, such as Ikhwan Muslimin Sururiya. You'll see them saying things like, it's not from the maslahah nowadays to speak about these matters. Why do you speak about these particular issues? There's no maslahah, there's no benefit in it, there's no hikmah in it. There's no mada hikmah in it. So they get extremely angry. Oh, why are you speaking about this particular, like Hassan why are you teaching the people or refuting this particular person? Why are you mentioning his mistakes and his akhta? So they get particularly angry. Abu Bakr ibn Ayyash, a man came to him, rahimahullah ta'ala, and he said, Ya Abu Bakr, man is Sunni. Oh Abu Bakr, man is Sunni. Who is the Sunni? Listen to this response. He said, الذي إذا ذكرت الأهواء لم يغضب لشيء منها. The Sunni is the one when innovations and are mentioned or refuted, لا يغضب. He doesn't get angry. He doesn't matter get angry. That's the Sunni. Okay, so if innovations are mentioned or spoken about, if the person becomes angry, هذا يدل على أن في قلبه انحراف وزيغ وضلال. If the person becomes angry after innovations have been refuted, after the mistakes have been refuted, بعلم وعدل وإنصاف ونصيحة, with knowledge and adl, of course. We're not talking about cussing and swearing and la. We're talking about refutation بعلم. طيب? If this person starts to get angry, then this is an evidence and proof that that person's heart, there is inhiraf and there is mada, a deviation and misguidance in that person is heart. So this is mentioned in Kitab al-Sharia lil-Ajurri. Shaykh Abdul Salam al-Barjis, معلقا على هذا, يعني commenting on this, he says, لما? Why does he not get angry? لأنه ليس له أي انتماء إلا إلى السنة. This person has no allegiance except to the Sunnah. طيب? So his allegiance is not to the message, just is not to that markaz, that hizb, that group of people, this individual. لا. His allegiance is mada to the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He says, فلا يؤثر فيه الطعن على الأهواء. So the ta'an and refuting desires and the people of desires doesn't really affect him. Okay? Or refuting the books of the people of desires doesn't affect him. He doesn't get angry. طيب, so if you're refuting, for example, the books of Sayyid Qutb, the sayings, the statements of Muhammad, of Ibn Surur مثلا, he doesn't get angry, he doesn't try to defend them indirectly. Okay, this is something, inshallah ta'ala, that you should know. طيب, number 9, the last one, number 9, is استعمال العواطف. استعمال العواطف ورد السنة بالعقل. Is استعمال العواطف is basically these people rely on emotions. Rely on emotions. So they get very emotional. Okay? And because of they're relying on emotions and the fact that they're crying or تظاهر بالبكاء, and they rely on this as proof of haqq. Now, the awam, the layman, okay, according to the qa'idah and the principles of the common folk and the layman, the person who speaks the loudest is always mada, the one who's upon the haqq. Right? That is obviously false. Now, these people, the ikhwan, they use awatif. So, for example, Hizb al-Tahrir and the Takfiriyin and haula'i, they use, for example, awatif, and they say, look at what's happening to the hal of the ummah. All of these hukam and rulers are all silent. They're not saying anything. They're all silent. They are all ulama, and these scholars are ulama al-hayd wal-nifas, the scholars of hayd wal-nifas, ulama al-salatin. The Muslims our women are being raped, our men are being killed. Everywhere you look, this is happening. What have you sacrificed, my brother? What have you done for the ummah? Where is your sacrifice? Go and read the Independent, the Guardian, so you can have knowledge of fiqh al-waqi'. Okay? That's what they say. Ikhwan, you're laughing, but that's exactly what they say. You should have knowledge of fiqh al-waqi'. So you see these people, they know everything that's going on. Some of them are like independent analysts. They're better than the columnists of the Independent. They're analysts. They know which policies are in place in every part of the world, what's going on. And that's all because of Sayyid Qutb. Sayyid Qutb, you know what he says? دعونا من فقه الأوراق عليكم بفقه الواقع. That's what he says. He says, leave fiqh al-awraq, the fiqh of the papers. The Mus'haf in the Quran, this is all fiqh al-awraq. Sahih Bukhari, fiqh al-awraq. Sahih Muslim. The fiqh of, the fiqh that's mentioned in the books of fiqh, fiqh al-tahara, kitab al-tahara, kitab al-salah, kitab al-zakah, kitab al-hajj. Sayyid Qutb says, leave all of that alone. No need. You should have fiqh al-waqi'. أخواني في الله, هل هذا دين Think about it. هل هذا دين؟ هل هذا هو دين الإسلام؟ That we should forget about the fiqh, the قال الله قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم, but we should take the qawl of Sayyid Qutb and focus on fiqh al-waqi', the fiqh of current affairs. That's exactly what the Ikhwan al-Muslimin invite to. And they use takattum. The first time they come and speak to you, they're not going to speak to you like that. The first time they speak to you, they might even talk to you about the sunnah. And there's an athar that I'm going to mention that backs this up. They might even mention some parts of the sunnah. They might mention some general aspects of tawheed and aqeedah. All of this matter to try and entice that young man to believe them and to establish credibility in the hearts of the ummah. The next, ikhwan fillah, mas'ala is, I'm going to mention some athar on the ikhwan, some athar of the Salaf and how they dealt with the people of innovation. Now, the people of qa'idah, ikhwan fillah, is that the Salaf, our righteous predecessors, were very harsh and stern towards the people of innovation. And you'll see this when you hear some of their statements. And the reason I'm mentioning this, ikhwan fillah, is the importance of this, because this is a type of knowledge and science that has vanished and it disappeared from the ranks of many marakiz al-Salafiyah. Rarely you will find people now, although this mas'ala issue is mabthuthatun, is mentioned in all of the books of Aqeedah, all of the books of the Sunnah. It's not even something khafi, something hidden. But because the Ikhwanis now have made this into like a taboo, something, they've made it into a subject of controversy, and they've made the Salafis guilty for even mentioning these athar, for fear of being labeled extremists. Some of the du'at, or some of the ikhwa, as-Salafiyin, they feel like mentioning these athar could cause fitna. Could cause mada fitna. And then what was the natija? What was the raddatul fi'l? The raddatul fi'l was that the reaction was that you only have the ghulat those who oppress the Sunnis, those who basically label the other Salafis and Sunnis as the people of innovation, using these athar in the wrong context. And then you have the mumayyi'een, on the other hand, saying that whoever uses these athar is mada what? Is an extremist. Do you understand, Ikhwan Fillah? You see the problem. So you have two extremes here. You have the ghulat on one side of the coin, and then you have the mumayyi'een on the other side of the coin. You have the ghulat, okay, using some of these athar and placing them on the heads of Mada Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah. Okay? And then labeling anyone who doesn't conform to their way of thinking as Mada, as a mumayyi'. Then you have on the left hand side the mumayyi'un, okay, who look at these athar, who are against refuting anything. The mumayyi' doesn't like refutations, doesn't like rad al-asl, the mumayyi' sees this as a fitna. Whereas the ghulat, they live in this maidan. That's where they live. They live in refutations. So then you have the mumayyi' refuting Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, the people that are in the middle, for even mentioning these athar, or opposing ماذا? The innovators. So Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah بين بين الضلالتين, are in two misguidances. Just like إخواني في الله, just like Shaykh al-Islam mentions في وسطية أهل السنة والجماعة, how أهل السنة والجماعة are wasat. They are wasat between the murji'ah on one side, the murji'ah, who say that إذا وجد بعض الإيمان وجد كله. If some iman is found in a person, all of iman is found in a person. Who say that if a person falls into every major sin under the sun, he's still a mu'minun kamilul iman, a believer whose belief is kamil, and his iman is like the iman of Abu Bakr and Jibreel and Umar. That's the murji'ah. Then you have on the other side, the other extreme, the khawarij, who say if a person falls into one sin, one dhanb, kharaja min al-millah. This person is no longer mada, a Muslim. So Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah in the middle. They say, with regards to Sahibul Kabira, they say huwa mu'minun bi imanihi, fasiqun bi kabiratihi. He's a believer because he still has aslul iman, okay? But he's also a fasiq because he fell into that kabira. So that's just one example. So then with regards to, so this particular mas'ala, ikhwan, so the reason why I want to mention these athar is to show you, ikhwan fillah, that this is mas'ala mafrughun minha. Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, when it comes to refuting the innovators and innovation, there is ijma', and they even spoke about, for example, some of the masail they spoke about was sitting with the people of innovation. Mujalasatu Ahlul-Bid'ah. Okay? They spoke about iyadatu Ahlul-Bid'ah. They spoke about the ruling on visiting the sick from the people of innovation. As-salatu khalfahum, praying behind them, marrying from them, or giving our daughters to marry them. They spoke about, for example, the fact that even, they even went as far as speaking about looking at mubtadi'. They never even wanted to look at mubtadi'. Walking with them, eating with them. They spoke about the fact that ghibatul mubtadi' is ja'iza. The ghiba of an innovator is allowed. They spoke about, for example, they said even living next to a mubtadi'. What's the hukmah? They even spoke about living next to a mubtadi' who's your neighbor, if your neighbor is a mubtadi'. They spoke about, for example, how the Salaf used to kick them out of their sittings and their majalis. Hajru Ahlul-Bid'ah, boycotting the people of innovation. All of this, ikhwani fillah, doesn't negate advising them. All of this is the mubtadi'. This is how they dealt. This is the adawa and the hatred that they had in their hearts for the people of innovation. Ibn Battah al-Ukburi, he says, في الإبانة الصغرى, he says, Allah Azza wa Jal has commanded us to stay away from the mukhalifin, the opposers, and tarku mujalisatihim, to abandon sitting with them, to abandon listening to them. Okay, Allah Azza wa Jal, He says, وَقَدْ نَزَّلَ عَلَيْكُمْ فِي الْكِتَابِ أن إذا سمعتم آيات الله يكفر بها ويستهزأ بها فلا تقعدوا معهم حتى يخوضوا في حديث غيره إنكم إذا مثلهم. So this ayah, Surah An-Nisa, Allah Azza wa Jal clearly prohibits us from listening and sitting with those people who mock and jest at the ayat of Allah Azza wa Jal. And لا شك في ذلك Ahlul-Bid'ah, they fall into this category. Imran ibn Hussein, he said once, al-haya'u min al-iman. He said that al-haya'u is min al-iman, modesty is from iman. Then a man said to him, I saw somewhere that it's inna min al-haya'i da'fan wa minhu waqaran. So someone said in another place fil hikmah, some wise words that I heard was that the haya, there is da'f and weakness. A person should not have any weakness. Should not have any haya or modesty. Imran was so angry at him, and he said to him, I am mentioning something to you about the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and you're mentioning something else to me, something that you read somewhere. Wallahi, I'll never speak to you again. That's what Imran Hussein said, min shiddat al-ghadab. Another athar, Abdullah ibn Umar al-Sarkhasi, he says, and he was from the students of Abdullah ibn Mubarak, he says, أكلت عند صاحب بدعة أكلة. عند صاحب بدعة أكلة. Once I ate something with the person of innovation. فبلغ and Ibn al-Mubarak heard this, and it reached him that I did this. He said to me, لا أكلمك 30 يوما. I'm not going to speak to you for 30 days. For 30 days. So you can see there. So that's proof that it's allowed. Ibn Waddah, he mentions, he says, قال Ibn Waddah, he has a book called Al-Bid'ah. He mentions, he says, Ismail ibn Sa'id al-Basri says, عن رجل أخبره قال كنت أمشي مع عمرو بن عبيد. He says, Ismail ibn Sa'id al-Basri narrates from a man who told him, he says, once I was walking with Amr ibn Ubayd. Does anyone know who Amr ibn Ubayd is? Mu'tazili. Amr ibn Ubayd was a known Mu'tazili. He said, I was walking with Amr ibn Ubayd, and Ibn Aun saw me. Ibn Aun, another scholar, saw me. فَأَعْرَضَ عَنِّي شَهْرَيْنِ. He didn't speak to me for 2 months. طيب? And then to give you context and explain this, you might be thinking, maybe he doesn't know. Maybe he doesn't know he's a sahib bid'ah. How am I supposed to know? I can't go around asking everyone what's your aqeedah on every single matter. Maybe he doesn't know. That's fine. Imam Ahmed answers this. He says, Abu Dawud al-Sijistani says, I asked Imam Ahmed ibn Hanbal, أرى رجلا من أهل السنة مع رجل من أهل البدعة. Sometimes I see a person from the sunnah with a person from innovation. أترك كلامه, should I not speak to him anymore? This person from the sunnah. Imam Ahmed said, قال لا, no, don't do that. تعلمه, يعني teach him or tell him أن الرجل الذي رأيته معه صاحب بدعة. That the person that you saw him is a person of innovation. فإن ترك كلامه فكلمه. If he leaves his speech, يعني if he leaves and if he stays away from him, then you can speak to him. وإلا فألحقه به. Otherwise, then ألحقه به, you can consider him the same, both of them the same. And Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, he says, المرء بخدنه. The person is the same as his companion. So here we learn that you can give advice to the person. So if there's a person of innovation, you can still advise. If a person who's from the Sunnah is speaking to or taking knowledge, for example, from a person of innovation, you can advise him. That matter, you can advise him and give him nasiha. And the fact that Ikhwan fillah, that Imam Ahmed is saying that you can stay away from him, this is dalil, proof that the people of the Salaf, Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, they used to consider making hajar or boycotting or not sitting or cooperating with the people of innovation. This is from the deen, and this is something that is bil ijma'. So Ikhwan fillah, this shows you that this is ijma'. That means that this is something that is part of Islam, part of the religion. Now applying it is a different matter. Applying it is something that is يرجع إلى الفقه. Applying it is where the fiqh is. This is where you need the ulama and the scholars to give you a specific fatwa. But the mumayyi'un, what do? They would like you to believe that this doesn't even exist. They throw this under the carpet. So what happens is when all of these nusus are hidden from the young brothers and sisters like yourselves, then what's going to happen is that in your heart, the people of innovation or innovation itself, you won't have that much hatred for innovation that you should have. So you should have, akhwan fillah, adna shay. The least that we could have is hatred for innovation and the people of innovation. That hatred doesn't mean that we oppress them. It doesn't mean we lie about them. It doesn't mean we don't give them nasiha. It doesn't mean we don't want their hidayah and their guidance. It doesn't mean that, ikhwan fillah. It doesn't mean that we want them to burn in hell for all of eternity. La, we don't want that. We want their guidance. We want khair for them. But you have to have that hatred in your heart. Now, this asl, ikhwan fillah, is very, the mumayyi'un, ikhwan fillah, these people have tanaqud. They contradict each other. You will see the mumayyi' having hatred for the person of sin, the sinner, the open sinner, the person who's drinking khamr, which they should have hatred for that sin. But this wala wal bara, they might use it when it comes to sinners, but they won't use it when it comes to bid'ah, innovation. So what is worse, ikhwana fillah? Bid'ah or sinning? Bid'ah is worse, la shakka fi dhalik. But they don't use it because, I'll tell you why. Because there's a conflict of interest. If they use it for bid'ah, that means, ikhwan fillah, that means that if they apply the teachings of the Salaf when it comes to how they deal with innovations and innovators, the numbers are going to dwindle. The numbers are going to dwindle. Okay? So there is a conflict of interest there. So that's why, ikhwan fillah, with regards to da'wah, when we're speaking about these matters of aqeedah, there cannot be any conflict of interest, meaning that we cannot look out for our best interests when it comes to speaking the haqq and the truth. We have to look out for the interest of the sharia, for the interest of the Islam. Allah Azza wa Jal, He revealed upon the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, abasa wa tawalla, sah, an ja'ahu al-a'ma. This is a verse that is abasa, yani Allah Azza wa Jalla is rebuking His Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But did the Prophet hide this? He didn't hide it. Subhanallah. So, ikhwani fillah, as a da'iyah, the lesson is that we don't look at our best interest when it comes to da'wah. We look at for the haqq, the interest of the sharia and the haqq. Jameel. Jamil. Then Imam al-Fudayl ibn Iyad, he says, آكل طعام اليهودي والنصراني ولا آكل طعام صاحب بدعة. He says, I can eat the food of the Yahudi and the Nasrani, but not the food of the Sahib bid'ah. Now you might be thinking, how can he say that? He actually clarifies it in another place. He says, لأن, he says, إذا أكلت عندهما لا يقتدى بي. Because if I eat with the Yahudi and the Nasrani, no one's going to think that the Yahud and the Nasara are upon the haqq. صح? لا يقتدى بي. Okay? وإذا أكلت عند صاحب بدعة اقتدي بي. However, if I sit with the person of innovation and I eat with him, people are going to look up to me and think that that person is ماذا? Upon the haqq. Upon إيش? Upon the haqq. Now, this ikhwan fillah athar, and there's many athar, teaches us, ikhwan fillah, that if a person has status in the community, he's a da'iyah, who's someone who's known to be upon the sunnah, okay? This person should be very careful who he hangs around with when it comes to the people of bid'ah and people of innovation. He should know that by speaking and by sitting on the same platform as a Deobandi, as a Sufi, as a Takfiri, then this is yaghurru nas. This is a deception to the people, the Salafis that used to regard him as someone who's upon Salafiyah. This is ماذا? التزكية لهذا المبتدئ. This is a tazkiyah. This is ماذا? It's as though this person is condoning or endorsing this person. This is what Imam al-Fudayl ibn Iyad rahimahullah ta'ala means. There's many athar. I'm just trying to summarize. وكان يقول الإمام الفضيل بن عياض, he says, وكان يقول اللهم لا تجعل لصاحب بدعة عندي يدا فيحبه قلبي. Oh Allah, don't make me owe something to a person of innovation. Don't make me owe him anything from this dunya. So for fear that my heart will be attached to him. This is how far the Salaf went. So this teaches us, ikhwan fillah, that we should always try to nastaghni an Ahlul-Bid'ah, that we should try to suffice ourselves from the people of innovation. If they invite us to lecture and to give a lesson in their marakiz or in the masajid, then the condition, we will go with the shart and the condition that nubayyinu khata'ahum, that we clarify their mistakes, which is what the ulama rahimahumullah ta'ala have taught us. We clarify their errors and their mistakes. If I go to a place, for example, where the people, there's fitna to takfir is prevalent there, the madhab of the Khawarij is prevalent there, they speak about the hukam and the rulers, first thing I do is talk about Aqeedah and Tawheed. I'm not going to talk about, for example, the ruling of al-masih al-khuffayn مثلا, wiping over the socks. لا, I'm going to talk about this particular mas'ala, this particular issue, but bihikmah, with adillah, without labeling them with anything, without being harsh or stern towards them, with rifq. I use rifq. Okay, we use gentleness and rifq and leniency, but we still don't compromise, ikhwan fillah. There's no compromising upon the haqq. We still speak the truth. He says, Al-Imam Ibn Battah, he mentions the ijma' of this mas'ala. He mentions the ijma' of al-mujalasa, or sitting with the people of innovation. Ibn Battah, he mentions, قيل للأوزاعي, وسألت الإمام الأوزاعي, إن رجلا يقول, a man says, okay, أنا أجالس أهل السنة وأجالس أهل البدع. A man says, okay, a man, Imam al-Awza'i is asked, I'm going to sit with the people of the Sunnah, and I'm also going to sit with the people of innovation. Both. طيب? This is what some marakis do nowadays. Some masajid, some marakis, they do this. They invite subhanallah, they're confused. One moment they're inviting a shaykh who's upon the Sunnah, upon Salafiyah. The next moment they're inviting a person of bid'ah, a person who's mutakallim, a person who lahum mukhalafat fil bid'ah. Confusion. I've even seen ikhwan fillah from these people, the ikhwanis I'm talking about, they are so confused in their da'wah, in their chaotic da'wah. I remember one week they invited a speaker who warned against riba, which is good. The next week they invited a speaker who invited to riba, who actually made some certain transactions and certain clauses halal, said you can take this type of loan is okay, this type of loan is okay. Look at the confusion, ikhwan fillah. Then when it was clarified to them, and I told them, ya ikhwan, did you forget manhaj for a second, aqeedah for a second? I want to show you how chaotic your da'wah is, and how the fact that you chase numbers, you chasing numbers has led you to this position and situation. Yesterday so-and-so said X, Y, and Z. Sah. Today so-and-so is saying this, the exact opposite of what so-and-so said last week. What is your stance in this mas'ala? What message are you trying to teach your worshippers and the people that come to the masjid? That is ikhwan fillah, just one namudaj. And that's هذا في this is a mas'ala, لا شك riba is كبيرة من كبائر الذنوب. طيب? But this is just one mas'ala, one issue. So Al-Imam Al-Awza'i, to come back to this author, is asked, if a person says, I want to sit with both, I want to have the best in their eyes of both worlds. I want to sit with the people of the Sunnah, and I want to sit with the people of Mada, of innovation. Okay? Al-Imam Al-Awza'i, he said, هذا رجل يريد أن يساوي بين الحق والباطل. This is a man who wants to make the haqq and batil equal. Okay? Ibn Battah Al-Ukburi, he says, commenting on this, صدق الأوزاعي. Wallah, he says, Al-Awza'i, how right is Awza'i? أقول, I say, إن هذا لا يعرف الحق من الباطل. This person doesn't know the difference between the truth and falsehood. ولا الكفر من الإيمان, or the difference between kufr and iman. وفي مثل هذا نزل القرآن. And in this situation did the Quran refute. ووردت السنة, and the Sunnah spoke about this. عن المصطفى صلى الله عليه وسلم. قال الله تعالى, Allah Azza wa Jal, he says, وإذا لقوا الذين آمنوا قالوا آمنا وإذا خلوا إلى شياطينهم قالوا إنا معكم. Allah speaking about the munafiqun, the hypocrites, he says, when they are with the believers, they say we believe. And when they are with the shayateen, يعني shayateen al-insi wal-jinn, they say we are with you. Hypocrisy. So we learn that Ahlul-Bid'ah are Ahlul Nifaq. They are hypocrites. They are Ahlul Ghadrin, a people of treachery and betrayal. And they are a people of Mada, Nifaq and hypocrisy. So here, Ikhwan Fillah, we see this type of person mixing truth with falsehood, trying to sit with both. This happens nowadays. Do you know how the bid'ah of the Kullabiyah came about? The bid'ah of the Kullabiyah. Abu Muhammad, Abdullah ibn Sa'id ibn Kullab, okay, used to say Al-Qur'anu Kalamullah. He was once sitting with some Mu'tazila and he said Al-Qur'anu Kalamullah. Anything wrong with that so far? La, nothing wrong with it. Al-Qur'anu Kalamullah. But Ibn Kullab, he wanted to mix between the madhab of the Salaf fil istidlal bil kitab wa sunnah and the madhab of the Aqlaniyun, the madhab of the people of Aql. He wanted both of them. He wanted to combine both of them, and he wanted to merge the both. He wanted to merge two opposites, things that can't merge, that can't come together. Right? So he's sitting one day with the Mu'tazila and he said, Al-Qur'anu Kalamullah. The Mu'tazila, they said, يَلْزَمُ مِنْ كَلَامِكَ لَوَازِمْ كَذَا وَكَذَا وَكَذَا. By you saying this, there are lawazim. يعني يترتب على هذا. You saying that the Quran is the word of Allah necessitates يعني certain things. And from the things they mentioned, that it necessitates that Allah has a voice box, that Allah has shafatain, has lips, that He resembles His creation. ذكر أشياء. Then Ibn Kullab, he sat back, فكر وقدر. He sat back and he started thinking and contemplating, and he said, الكلام ينقسم إلى قسمين. He says that kalam is divided into two. كلام النفس وكلام إيش؟ لفظي. Abu Nasr al-Sijzi, in his book الرد على من أنكر الحرف والصوت, قال, he said that he came with something أضحك على نفسه العقلاء. He came with something that caused the uqala to laugh at him. He came with something so absurd. يعني it is literally the definition of insanity. He said that kalam, speech, is divided into two. Internal speech and kalam lafzi, external speech with the lafz. And when he was asked, what do you mean by internal speech? He says, internal speech, there is no harf or sawt. There is no harf. Also, it's without letters and sounds. And internal speech, he said, huwa ma'na qa'im bin nafs. It is a meaning. That internal speech has a ma'na, has a meaning and a ma'na that is independent. Okay? And there is no harf wala sawt. And he says that the Quran is حكاية عن كلام الله. He says that the Quran is كلام نفسي. It's the hikayah of Allah's speech. It is the tale of Allah's speech. Okay? Now, what he's saying doesn't make any sense at all. What he's saying, Ikhwani Fillah, is that a person can have a whisper in his head. And that speech, according to the dictionary of Ibn Kullab, هذا speech. هذا إيش؟ كلام. Not knowing Ibn Kullab that there is such a thing, there are people called mutes. Al-Akhras, you know the mute? Ibn Kullab, the mute can speak. According to Ibn Kullab. So, Ikhwani Fillah, la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. So Ibn Kullab thinks that the mute can speak. Now, the Prophet ﷺ, he said, إن الله تجاوز عن أمتي ما حدثت به أنفسها ما لم إيش تعمل أو تتكلم. The Prophet ﷺ said, إن الله, Allah Azza wa Jal, تجاوز عن أمتي. Allah Azza wa Jal, He has forgiven my ummah. Okay? إن الله تجاوز عن أمتي ما حدثت به نفسها. Allah has forgiven my ummah what they have whispered, or the thoughts that they have, as long as they don't act or speak. واضح الدلالة. صح؟ As long as, but Ibn Kullab, he's saying that the Quran that is in front of us, now, the Mus'haf that's in front of us, is not the word of Allah. It is ماذا? كلام of Allah. طيب? It is حكاية عن كلام الله. Then the Asha'ira, they came and they twisted it even more. They said Al-Qur'anu عبارة عن كلام الله. Instead of using حكاية, they said Al-Qur'anu عبارة عن إيش? كلام الله. Allahu أعلم what the difference is. Okay? It's the same thing. مفاده أن القرآن مخلوق. All of this, إخواني في الله, is that the Quran is created. Now, the Kullabiyya don't specifically say that the Quran is created, like the Jahmiyyah. They don't specifically say that the Quran is created like the Jahmiyyah. However, they say it indirectly. And the Salaf, Shaykh Taymiyyah يقرر هذا, they are upon the opinion that the Kullabiyya, they say that the Quran is ماذا? مخلوق. The Jahmiyyah say that the Quran is مخلوق explicitly. The Kullabiyya say that the Quran is مخلوق implicitly. But it's the same thing. هو إخواني في الله. طيب. Now, did if someone comes and says to Imam Ahmad or the ulama of the Salaf, اتق الله, fear Allah, Ibn Kullab didn't explicitly say it. Is that accepted from him? لا أبدا. So إخواني في الله, that, why am I talking to you about the Kullabiyya? I'm talking to you about the Kullabiyya to show you the danger of trying to mix the haqq with the batil. So if someone says now, يعني الدعوة السلفية in this day and age needs a revolution. We need to spice it up. We need to change things around. We need to start cooperating with the people of innovation. We need to start sitting down with them and sharing platforms with them. In fact, let's praise them. خلينا نزكيهم. Let's praise them and show how tolerant we are and how we follow the middle path. هذا كلام باطل. هذا كلام يخالف منهج السلف. That is speech, إخواني في الله, that contradicts the manhaj of the Salaf. You learnt in the previous lecture the difference between عقيدة and manhaj. أليس كذلك؟ إخواني في الله, عقيدة and manhaj, they are one and the same. Now, the ulama, they say that manhaj, as you've learned, is more encompassing than عقيدة. عقيدة is part of manhaj. The best example to give you, إخواني في الله, is that Aqeedah is what, the manhaj is what protects the Aqeedah. The manhaj is what protects ماذا? Aqeedah. And Aqeedah, the manhaj is defending the Aqeedah. So we use the manhaj to defend Aqeedah. So the manhaj is, for example, al-jarh wa ta'dil is part of manhaj. But is al-jarh wa ta'dil in the books of Aqeedah? No, يعني in the books of Aqeedah, in the sense it is من باب مثلا الرد على المخالف, yes, but the wording جرح والتعديل, the science is in مصطلح الحديث. طيب? So that's part of manhaj. Refuting the opposers, how to refute them, al-istidlalat, that's part of manhaj. So the manhaj ماذا? Protects Aqeedah. So you might find yourself, for example, let's say someone has their يعني they believe in the Aqeedah of the Salaf, but they have خلل في المنهج. So if a person has a khalal in Aqeedah, he will have a khalal in manhaj. Khalal means deficiency in Aqeedah, he'll have a deficiency in manhaj. If he has deficiency in manhaj, he'll have deficiency in Aqeedah. So that's why, Ikhwan Fillah, you have to learn both. You have to learn Aqeedah and you have to learn manhaj. And by learning manhaj, that manhaj will protect you from Aqeedah. Example, you have a banana, right? If you peel a banana, okay, and you have the banana itself, you can eat it. You don't eat it with the skin, right? You can eat the banana. But if you leave that banana now, somewhere, after some time, it's going to get dirty. And it's going to get rotten pretty quickly. It will be exposed to the elements. That is the Aqeedah. The skin around the banana is the manhaj. That is what protects the Aqeedah. You have to have that. That's why you see some people confused. You have a person who is learning the books of the Salaf, teaching the books of the Salaf. But then when it comes to speaking about the people of innovation, all of a sudden, this person is the only person who has wara'. He's the only person who has zuhd and taqwa. No one else has taqwa. He said, Ikhwan, we have to fear Allah Azza wa Jal. We can't speak about these matters. It's going to cause fitna. Ya akhi, the fitna is not talking about it. Let's have wara', Ikhwan fillah. Let's not rock the boat. Let's just continue learning Aqeedah al-Wasatiyah. Ya hada. Or let's continue to learn usul al-sunnah مثلا. Usul al-sunnah. يا هذا in أصول السنة you have الرد على المخالف. It's in the, so you can see that person there is a خلل and deficiency ماذا in the manhaj. And إخواني في الله يعلم الله تعالى إخواني في الله that this is not an invite to a group or a hizb or يعني an individual. لا, this is not a يعني this is دين. هذا هو ديننا. This is the أقوال of the Salaf بين أيدينا. Then he says, I'm going to mention another, just a few more inshallah. The next issue is when it comes to when it comes to the people of innovation, that we look at who their companions are. We look at a person who his companions are. Yahya al-Qattan, he says that Sufyan al-Thawri, when he came to Basra, he noticed that the people were elevating a man called Al-Rabi' ibn Subayh or Sabih. They were elevating him, looking up to him. He was someone who had a high status. So he asked what is his, he asked about his madhab. And they said that his madhab is the sunnah. He's someone who follows the sunnah. Then he said, Man bitanatuhu, who are his close companions? They said, Ahlul Qadr, the Qadariyah. He said, Huwa Qadari. Sufyan al-Thawri said, Then khalas, Huwa Qadari. Ibn Battah, he says that Sufyan al-Thawri, may Allah have mercy upon him, nataqa bil-hikmah, spoke with the hikmah. Because the person, al-mar'u ma'a dini khalilihi. The person is upon, think about it, it's only logic. If you hang around someone who smokes cigarettes all day, are you going to smell like roses and perfume? How are you going to smell? You're going to smell the way they smell. If you hang around a person who doesn't pray, every time he doesn't pray, sooner or later you're going to find yourself, the salah is going to become difficult for you. You will la budda an tata'athar. There will always be ta'athar. So if someone is only with the people of innovation, that's his closest companions, right? La shakka fi dhalika, that person has picked, the reason why they're spending so much time together is mada, is ish. Is because they are upon the same aqeedah, same deen. Look at Sa'id al-Kumali, for example. He goes to Riyadh. Does he go to Shaykh Fawzan or the people of the Sunnah? La. He doesn't go to none of the ulama that we know. Who does he hang around with? The Sufis. They are singing the burda around him. And he's sitting there content as if he's listening to some ayat. Shuf, ikhwani. So, al-mar'u mada ma'a dini khalili. So these type of du'at, this type of person, we stay away from them. We don't hang around with them. We don't listen to them. We don't expose us of, he's someone who's, mashallah, he speaks, he has some shi'r and some ish, some... La. We don't, ikhwan, hang around with them. We don't listen to them. We don't look at them. We don't spend any time with them. Lakum dinukum waliya din. Khalas. We're not making takfir of them. But we follow the madhab of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah when it comes to dealing with the people of innovation. And if the Mumayyah think that is shiddah, then so be it. The deen, the religion doesn't revolve around what they say. The religion doesn't revolve around what the ghulat say. The next, Ibn Battah, he says, Ibn Battah speaking about this, he says, قال الله تعالى, Allah Azza wa Jal says, يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تتخذوا بطانة من دونكم لا يألونكم خبالا ودوا ما عنتم. Allah Azza wa Jal says, oh, those of you who have believed, do not associate closely with others who would not miss a chance to harm you. Their only desire is to see you suffer. Allah Azza wa Jal here, he says, don't associate with people who will harm you. Harm you physically, harm you in terms of your aqeedah, everything. This ayah is proof. Their only desire is to see you suffer. And Imam al-Ajurri mentions in Kitab al-Sharia, Bab Dhikri Hajri Ahlul-Bid'ah wal Ahwa. Chapter specifically dedicated to boycotting the people of innovation, the people of al-Ahwa. Jamil. With regards to Tarku Mujalasati Ahlul-Bid'ah, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, leaving, sitting with the people of innovation, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he read the verse, Huwa alladhi anzala alayka al-kitab, verse number 7 in Surah Al-Imran, he said, إِذَا رَأَيْتُمُ الَّذِينَ يُجَادِلُونَ فِيهِ فَهُمُ الَّذِينَ عَنَى اللَّهُ فَاحْذَرُوهُم. If you see the people that Allah is referring to in this verse, the people of deviation, then stay away from them. Was the Prophet, look at this, the Prophet is telling us, to stay away from the people of deviation. Um, ما أكثر النقولات. نعم. ابن القيم, Hisham ibn Hassan, he says that a man came to Ibn Sirin, and Muhammad ibn Sirin, you all know him, هذا الإمام الكبير التابعي. He says this man came to him and said, فلانا يريد أن يأتيك, so and so wants to meet you. ولا يتكلم بشيء, but don't worry, he's not going to talk to you about any of these matters, any of these issues. قال, Muhammad ibn Sirin said, قل لفلان لا يأتيني. Say to him, don't come near me. Don't come to me. فإن قلب ابن آدم ضعيف. Because the heart of Ibn Adam is ماذا? Weak. وإني أخاف أن أسمع منه كلمة فلا يرجع قلبي إلى ما كان. And I am afraid that I may hear something from him and my heart will never be the same again. Compare this, إخواني في الله, and compare some people who are on social media, on Twitter, exposing themselves to every single to every single shubha out there. Every single misguidance, they expose themselves to it. They listen to debates. They listen to every innovator. Every person who speaks, they expose themselves on TikTok, social media, your eyes, your ears, subhanAllah. هذا Ibn Sirin, he doesn't even want to hear one word, ikhwan fillah, because he's protecting his qalb, his heart. And that's what we have to be, ikhwan. We have to protect our hearts. And this is, this person is a person of desires. If you know that there's a person of desire, this person only wants to debate you, then ماذا اتركهم, because as Imam Malik said, ليس الدين لمن غلب. A man came to Imam Malik and said to him, أريد أن أخاصمك أجادلك, I want to debate you. Imam Malik said, فإن غلبتني, what if you defeat me, what's going to happen? He said, you have to follow me. And what happens if I defeat you? Then I follow you. Imam Malik said, يا هذا الدين ليس لمن غلب. This religion is not for the one who overcomes the other person in debate. It's not about debating, ikhwan fillah. That's why Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, he says, من جعل دينه عرضة للخصومات أكثر التنقل. Whoever makes his religion, whoever exposes himself to debating and arguing and argumentation, أكثر التنقل, you'll see this person moving around, changing viewpoints and changing color, changing their views. One day he's a Sufi, the next day he's a Salafi, the third day he's from the Ghulat, the fourth day he's the Mumayyi', the fifth day, Allahu A'lam, what's going to happen? لا تدري. Does that make sense? You don't expose yourself to controversial issues, to controversies, to arguments. You stay upon the haqq. أولا, you ask Allah Azza wa Jal for guidance. You wake up in the middle of the night and you say, اللهم اهدني لما اختلف فيه من الحق بإذنك إنك تهدي من تشاء إلى صراط المستقيم. You make dua to Allah Azza wa Jal. تدعو الله تعالى that Allah keeps you steadfast. And إخواني في الله, we are in times of fitna nowadays. التبس الحق بالباطل عند كثير من الناس. Many people are unable to distinguish between the haqq and the batil because of the lack of ilm and lack of knowledge. They see this person making everyone mubtadi'. Everyone is an innovator. And then they see this person saying everyone is upon the sunnah. The exact opposite. Right? Ghulu. Two extremes. So this person doesn't know who should he take knowledge from. Who should he follow? How should he learn? The only way to salvation, ikhwan fillah, is al-ilm al-nafi'. Knowledge. So that inshallah ta'ala tatabassar. And that you have basira and you have insight. Ibn al-Qayyim fi Bidai' al-Fawaid, he says, speaking about, I'm just going to mention, it's in page 2, volume 2, page 823. He has a kalam jameel fi bayan khuturat al-mukhalata, where he talks about the dangers of mixing with the people of innovation. And before someone says the Mumayyi', they always say, yeah, but that time was, some of them say, that time was a time when the sunnah was zahir. Ibn al-Qayyim's time, there was Sufis, there was every single mukhalifa was there, ikhwan. So it's not about the time frame. It's about mada, following the nusus and following the deen. I'm going to mention quickly, the Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, they forbid us from praising and respecting the people of innovation. طيب, Al-Imam Al-Fudayl ibn Iyad, he says, من وقر صاحب بدعة فقد أعان على هدم الإسلام. Whoever respects or holds in high esteem a person of innovation, this person has aided in the destruction of Islam. How clear can this be, ikhwan? يعني how clear cut is this? يعني anyone who respects يعني calling them a sheikh, the sheikh so and so, that is tawqir. How we don't call a takfiri sheikh, we don't call a Sufi sheikh, we don't call, doesn't matter if he's 80 years old, as long as he's a mubtadi' Sufi, we don't call him sheikh. Okay, especially when we're talking to other people, when we're talking to the shabab, to the youth. But if I'm alone with him in a room and there is no one there, لا مانع, there's nothing wrong in me being gentle and lenient in my speech in order to advise him. But there's no one there, right? There's no one there. I want to advise him. I want to give him, I want to be the reason why he comes back because of this bid'ah. And then Allah Azza wa Jalla will be rewarded for every single second he's upon the sunnah, right? But when it's basically out in public, I'm not going to elevate his status, as Imam Al-Fudayl ibn Iyad said. I'm not going to call him a sheikh or say this person is someone who's learned, this person is someone who's this, etc. Tarku mujadalatihim, leaving off debating them. Okay? We mentioned the qawl of Umar Abdul Aziz. Also, they spoke about the taqallubat of Ahlul-Bid'ah wa talawunihim. You see the ikhwan and the talawun, where did they get? They got this from their fathers, their founding father, the Jahmiyyah and the Mu'tazila and Ahlul Kalam. The fact that they keep changing viewpoints. Amir ibn Abdullah, he says, ما ابتدع رجل بدعة إلا أتى غدا بما ينكره عليها اليوم. Subhanallah. He says that no one innovates in innovation except that tomorrow he will come with something that refutes what he was upon yesterday. Hassan al-Banna, ikhwani fillah. Did you know that Hassan al-Banna was once calling people to capitalism and refuting socialism? Then he started calling people to socialism, refuting capitalism. شوف يا إخواني جنون. يعني the capitalism and socialism is the exact opposite. The exact opposite. So you see these statements, they happen in real life, إخوان. They do happen. A person of innovation is a person who's في تقلبات. الذين, Allah Azza wa Jal describes the Quran how. Look at how Allah describes the nusus. الذين آمنوا وتطمئن قلوبهم بذكر الله. ألا بذكر الله تطمئن القلوب. إيش الطمأنينة يا إخوان؟ ها؟ What's طمأنينة? Tranquility والثبات والاستقرار. طمأنينة is ثبات, استقرار, calmness. Okay? Being مستقر. استقرار means يعني إيش معنى الاستقرار؟ يعني being firm upon the حق. Allah Azza wa Jal, he says يثبت الله الذين آمنوا بالقول الثابت. الثابت is مستقر إخوان. Something that's firm, foundation. That's how the nusus are described. Whereas the people of innovation are أهل تقلب وتلون وتكتم وخفاء. They are people who keep changing colors. One day they have this particular viewpoint. The next day they have another viewpoint. It's always changing. طيب. Also, إخواني في الله, they speak about hajr of Ahlul-Bid'ah, not walking with them. نعم, and walking with them. Jamil. Now, I'm going to, inshallah ta'ala, quickly conclude by mentioning some of the bid'ah of just so you know that everything that we've read today, I want to give you some case studies, okay, from the lives of some of the figureheads of the Ikhwanis. So you have the first one, Jamaluddin al-Afghani. Okay, he was born in the year 1838, right? Jamaluddin al-Afghani is, from his Aqeedah, is that he was an activist. He was a political activist, and he would use religion in the and his Aqeedah was political activism, thawrat, revolutions, and that was the hadaf. He believed that the reason why Allah created us was so that we are so that basically the hukum and rulership and governorship is established on the earth. Also from his afkar is that he believed that the rulers were all to be ousted. He didn't believe that there was a Islamic rulership on the face of the earth. The Ikhwanis, you know, when they say nowadays that we have to return the Khilafah and we have to go back to the Khilafah, Jamaluddin al-Afghani was born when there was a Khilafah. He lived in the time of the Khilafah. And he believed, him and Hassan al-Banna believed, that even in the time of the last days, they believed that the weakness upon the Ummah came from Uthman ibn Affan. And they accused Uthman ibn Affan, هذا الصحابي الجليل, with various things, with nepotism. They accused him by saying that he was someone who only looked out for his tribe, his people. They also say, Hassan al-Banna, and they also say that the last real ruler who was upon the haqq was Umar ibn Abdul Aziz. Meaning that all of the rulers that the A'imma al-Arba'a, Imam Malik, Shafi'i, all of the A'imma lived in were upon batil. And they even go as far as saying, some of them even say that they weren't even upon Islam. So all this kalam where they say we want to come back to the Khilafah, it's all kalam fadi. Also, he was a part of he was a Freemason as well, and he believed in assassination. So he was someone who he believed in two types of assassinations: actual physical assassinations, yani executing his opponents, and he also believed in character assassination. And the Ikhwanis that are alive today, he was their founding father. So they will see character assassinations. Ahlul Sunnah al-Jama'ah, he would use the media to speak about and the people of the Haqq. He established certain organizations. He believed in secret societies. All the Ikhwanis, they believe in secret societies. This is something you should know. They will try to recruit you. Secret societies, everywhere they go, they'll try to make some sort of munazzama sirriya, a secret society. Okay? And the best way to know this is when they start talking differently. The way they speak in their secret gathering is different to the way they speak ala al-mimbar. Whereas the Salafi will say the same thing upon the mimbar and upon private sit. The Aqeedah is wadih dhahir, but they won't say the same thing. So one of them, in the lessons, when he's asked a question like what's the best type of tafsir, he might say Ibn Kathir. But privately, when there's no cameras, nothing, because he doesn't want لا يريد أن يظهر أمره, he'll say that the best tafsir is Dilal al-Quran. And I've heard this and seen this. Also, Ikhwan Fillah, the next person is Hassan al-Banna. Hassan al-Banna was born in the year 1906 and he established the Ikhwan al-Muslimin in 1928 and Akhawat al-Muslimat. So Ikhwan al-Muslimin also had Akhawat al-Muslimat as well. And it was in 1928, and he was also a Thawri Haraki. He was a Sufi as well by his own admission. He followed at the Tariqa al-Hasafiyya, I think it was, min Turuq al-Sufiyya. He would make tawaf around the Qubur. Tawheed, speaking about Tawheed, matters of shirk wasn't really that important to him. The most important thing to him was ماذا? Al-Wusul ila Sulta, governorship and leadership. In fact, when he came to Saudi Arabia, he went to the rulers at the time of Saudi Arabia and he said, I want to establish a markaz for Ikhwan Muslimin. And Alhamdulillah, Allah Azza wa Jal, granted, and they were hukama, the rulers were hukama, they were wise. The Malik at the time, he said to him, نحن في السعودية كلنا إخوان مسلمين. We are all brothers. We are all brothers, Alhamdulillah. So there's no need for this. So if their hadaf is al-wusul, if their hadaf is a tawheed, you don't need to establish something. You don't need to establish a markaz. You can call to the haqq. The Salafi, all he needs is his book. That's it. Everywhere he goes, in a masjid, under a tree, اعلم رحمك الله أنه يجب علينا. خلاص, wherever he goes. The Ikhwani, however, needs a whole mu'assasa. They have to establish something. Like I told you, Ikhwan, previously, they have to rule something. They cannot live without ruling something. Subhanallah. He was also someone who believed in the qaida al-ghayatu tubarrir al-wasila, that the end justifies the means. It doesn't matter how it happens, as long as it happens. That's why you see some of the Ikhwanis, they might commit open acts of kufr sometimes, open sinning. They might, remove their beard, have relationships with women, drink alcohol even, not pray, riba, all of this halal for them. Why? لمصلحة الدعوة, for the maslahah of the da'wah. Okay? That's one aspect. Then you have the other aspect, the sururis. also the same thing. But the Sururis, they have to keep up appearances. They can't do these things because otherwise the Salafis are not gonna. They need the Salafis. They need the support of Da'wah Salafi is a Da'wah that's haiba, that has haiba. Every single mukhalifu hates Salafiyah, but also wants to ascribe himself to Salafiyah, which is one of the strangest things. Yani, subhanallah, they will hate Salafiyah in one breath, and then they will say, "No, I hate the ghulu of Salafiyah," but they will ascribe themselves to the Sunnis, to the Salafi, and they say, yeah, we are upon Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, we are upon this. And هؤلاء هم السروريون. And also, he established the principle of cooperation. يعني نتعاون فيما اتفقنا عليه ويعذر بعضنا بعضا فيما اختلفنا فيه. We'll talk about that more in the next lecture, inshallah ta'ala. Then you have Abu al-A'la al-Mawdudi, after Hassan al-Banna. Abu al-A'la al-Mawdudi was also someone who had the same qawaid and principles. He believed in kufr al-hukam, that the hukam were all disbelievers. He believed that everyone who lived under those hukam are also disbelievers. In fact, he divided people into different categories. He says you have the tawaghit, the hukam, and you have number two, he says those who follow the hukam from the sha'ab, from the people, they're also kuffar. And then he said you have the third category of people, they are the mustad'afin, meaning themselves. Yani, we are the mustad'afin. Yani, we're not kuffar. Yes, we can live under them, eat their food, do everything, but we're not mada kuffar. Also, يعني التقلبات يعني معروفة. Then you had Sayyid Qutb, who was more influential than the previous one. Sayyid Qutb was extremely influential. He has in his book ظلال القرآن, or في ظلال القرآن, in that book, in the shade of the Quran, he يقرر مذهب التكفير. He establishes the madhab of the takfiriyin. He makes open takfir upon the mujtama'at. In fact, he says, ليس على وجه الأرض مجتمع مسلم يشهد لا إله إلا الله. There is nothing on the face, there is no society on the face of the earth that is Muslim. And he says that we live in a time of jahiliyyah. We live in a time of jahiliyyah. And this is something you have to know. Even the Ikhwanis now, a lot of them now are hiding because they can't explicitly say these things, but they're waiting because they believe in fiqhul marhala. You know fiqhul marhala? That every situation has its own fiqh, and that they have to be flexible, and they have to labdan yansajimu, and they have to have insijam, they have to be flexible when it comes to the type of how they deal with the hukam and how they. So in one moment, like in Saudi Arabia, for example, in one moment you'll see them praising the hukam. Then as soon as they have the opportunity, you'll see them making takfir of the hukam. Oh, when the hukama, this, the hukam. Ya akhi, bil ams you were praising him. Bil ams, what were you saying yesterday? No. Fiqh al-marhala. Fiqh ish al-marhala. So they use at-taqiyya. And Sayyid Qutb, he is the one who innovated the fiqh al-waqi', fiqh al-marhala. And he's under the opinion. In fact, Sayyid Qutb went, he was, the ulama, his students mentioned actually, that he went through certain phases. He was on at one point he believed in a ta'arri, in nudity. Sayyid Qutb believed in nudity, and there was a moment I think in the 60s that basically there was a tayyar, there was a movement. I think it was the hippie movement. Wallahu a'lam. There was a movement of basically people just being free in how they live their lives. And if a person wants to be naked and run around naked, la bas. Sayyid Qutb once took that opinion. That in and of itself is enough to show who the man is. It's very strange that these people, when the Salafis start to speak about the dangers of reading Dhilal al-Quran, that it's a book of takfir. He يطعن في سيد يطعن في الأنبياء. He insults their prophets, the companions, the Sahaba. All you have to do is read how Shaykh Rabi' Hafidhullah Ta'ala refuted him. Right? These people, they will have more ghaira and more jealousy for Sayyid Qutb than they will for the prophets and messengers and the Sahaba. You tell them, Ya Ikhwan, this is takfir. La ma qasata kada. Some of them will outrightly lie to your face and say he didn't say it. Then when you show them, Ya akhi, hada huwa, he said it, they'll say, no, he meant something else. He's saying there's no mujtama' Islami ala wajh al-ard. What else can he? Hada, subhanallah, that's the few the moments where there's no ijmal in their kalam. These are the few moments where there is no ambiguity in their speech. It's actually clear cut. So اخوان في الله, inshallah ta'ala نقف عند هذا الحد. We'll stop here بإذن الله تعالى. And this is just a summary of this mas'ala, this issue, which is the mawqif of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah when it comes to the people of innovation, I highly advise Ikhwan Fillah to go back to the speech of the ulama, speech of the scholars. Shaykh Ibrahim Ruhaila has, Hafidhullah Ta'ala, he has a book, or he has basically a mu'allaf where he speaks about this mas'ala in detail, called Mawqif Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah min Ahlul-Bid'ah wal Ahwa. You can go back to that. Also, if you go back to the books of the Salaf, such as Kitab al-Sharia al-Ajurri, go back to I'tiqad Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah lil-Lalaka'i, al-Bid'ah li Ibn Waddah, al-Sunnah li Abdullah ibn al-Imam Ahmad, rahimahullah ta'ala al-Jami'. Go back to Kitab al-Tawheed li Ibn Khuzaymah. All of the books of هذه نصوص متضافرة. You don't have to be even any strong student of knowledge. You can find these مسائل, these نصوص مبثوثة في كتب أهل العلم. And it's important for us in this day and age for us to know what bid'ah is, the dangers of bid'ah, and to recognize the people of desires and the people of innovation, not just to refute them, ikhwani fillah, but to also guide them, so that we are, inshallah ta'ala, mafatiha lil khair, maghaliqa lil shar, that we become, inshallah ta'ala, keys to khair and goodness, that open the doors of goodness, and the keys that close the doors of innovation and the doors of bid'ah. And I warn you against following, ikhwan fillah, personalities. Don't be from those ikhwa that look at personalities and your whole deen and religion is based on Ustad Fulan or Ustad Allan or la. Go back to Ahlul Ilm. Go back to the scholars, ikhwan fillah. Follow the haqq and the truth. Don't get bogged down into personalities and individuals. This is bigger than us. This is Shaykh Islam Taymiyyah, he says, هذا الاعتقاد ليس لي ولا لمن هو أكبر مني. Speaking to the Ash'ari, he said this aqeedah doesn't belong to me. It doesn't belong to anyone bigger than me. This is قال الله قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. So this is not a joking matter. This is not this is not basically this is basically not a reason. All of these nusus are not being mentioned because of a personal agenda or vendetta between individuals or between groups. There's nothing personal about it, ikhwan. هذه مسائل دينية. هذه مسائل عقدية. This is deen, this is religion. Okay? And we have to look at who we take our religion from. Do you take your religion from a person of innovation? Or do you take your religion from the person of the sunnah? Do you take your religion from a person who has no wara', who basically removes everyone from the fold of the sunnah, says everyone is mubtadi', bashes everyone? Or do you take your religion from someone who has aql and has tadayyun and has wara' and has zuhd and fears Allah Azza wa Jalla on the last day, on Yawm al-Qiyamah, fears that the day, knows the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, inna a'radakum haramun alaykum ka hurmati yawmikum hadha fi shahrikum hadha fi baladikum hadha. The a'rad of the Muslim, the honor of a Muslim is sacred, ikhwan fillah. It's not something to play around with. Labeling someone, giving someone specific labels without any tathabbut, without any verification, without any dalil, this is not a joking matter. Do we take our religion from this person who indiscriminately just labels people? Or a person of the sunnah from us ulama? And on the opposite extreme, do we take our religion, our deen, from someone who considers everyone to be upon the sunnah? Someone who praises the people of innovation, shares platforms with the people of innovation, sits with the people of innovation, praises the people of innovation, gets angry when the people of innovation and desires are refuted or spoken about. Do we take our religion from this person? Or do we take our religion from the alim as-sunnah, our scholars, the ulama of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, who have taught us the dangers of innovation, warned us about the people of innovation, refuted the people of innovation, bi'adlin wa haqqin wa ilmin wa insaf. As Shaykh Islam Taymiyyah says, with ilm, with ilm and with adl. With ماذا adl? Adl meaning with insaf, with justice. So just because someone speaks about us specifically, individually, starts to insult you individually, doesn't give you the reason, that is not a reason for ماذا? For you to refute that person, because then أنت تنتصر لنفسك لا تنتصر للحق. You're seeking aid and victory for yourself, not for the haqq. So that's something very important. So insaf, Allah Azza wa Jal says, وَلَا يَجْرِمَنَّكُمْ شَنَآنُ قَوْمٍ عَلَىٰ أَلَّا تَعْدِلُوا اعْدِلُوا هُوَ أَقْرَبُ لِلتَّقْوَىٰ. اعْدِلُوا. Let not your hatred for a people, any grudge that you have for a people, cause you to be to do dhulm and to be unjust. To be unjust. اعْدِلُوا, Allah says. Have justice. Be just. So that's something very, very important, that the person of the sunnah has to be someone with insaf, and this is يعني وما يلقاها إلا الذين صبروا وما يلقاها إلا ذو حظ عظيم, as Allah Azza wa Jal mentioned. وصلى الله وسلم على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Inshallah ta'ala, you'll have a 10-minute break inshallah, and then Shaykh Saeed inshallah ta'ala will continue with the next lecture.